how to print on t-shirts from home using a sublimation method. Stay tuned, you won't want to miss this video. Hey, what is going on? The printer guy here, and in this video I wanted to talk to you about printing on t-shirts from home using a sublimation method. If this video ends up being helpful, please make sure to like. Any questions at all, comment below. And if you want more content like this, please make sure to subscribe. There will be video chapters down below this video so you can skip around to different parts of the video. Also, there will be links down in the description below to various products that I end up talking about. All right, so the easiest way to print on t-shirts is something called sublimation. And basically what sublimation is it's a special type of ink that is printed on a special sublimation paper that is essentially a transfer paper. This transfer paper is able to transfer images or that ink, that sublimation ink, onto a polyester blended shirt using heat. So the gases and the heat exchange that happens when you're actually able to apply heat to the sublimation paper that already has an image printed on it, that is able to convert over to the t-shirt and thus giving you the ability to print on t-shirts. Now this is the easiest way to print on t-shirts because the setup you would need for sublimation printing is very easy to put together and pretty budget friendly. You can use a very base level Epson EcoTank printer for under $200. The sublimation ink linked down in the description below, about $20 to $25, maybe $30 at the top of that price point. And then there's a bunch of other things you might need, but really it doesn't get much more expensive from there, other than maybe you would want to invest in a good t-shirt heat press, which I think would be worth it if you're doing multiple t-shirts. If you're just getting started, I recommend that you start off with a Cricut heat press for about $100. I'll link that down in the description below as well. Now I have other videos kind of covering a whole setup that you would need for sublimation printing from A to Z, all of the items that you would need. I'll link that down below as well. But in this video, I really just wanted to talk about the concept of printing t-shirts from home. Now, maybe that you're experimenting with a side hustle with a t-shirt business. It may be that you have a lot of friends and family that like to have custom t-shirts. Whether you're one of those or in between, this video is for you. So we kind of already talked about the setup, which is a printer. You have sublimation ink, sublimation paper, and you also would need specialized sublimation t-shirts because there's a special type of cotton and polyester blend, and really it's a polyester blend into cotton, that you would need at least 60 to 70% of polyester to be able to do sublimation. Now, of course, you can spend a lot more money on your sublimation equipment, but I highly recommend that initially you start out with some really basic equipment so that you can just get started. From there, you can upgrade. So the third thing you want to consider when you're doing sublimation printing from home is you want to consider where you will get designs from. I use a specific website, designbundles.net. You may have some designs that you've already put together that you have saved on your computer, or you may have something that people send to you, and you just need to get familiar with how to actually format it when you're doing a print preview. And that's really where you're going to be able to adjust everything that you need to adjust to be able to print on sublimation paper. So really understanding where you're getting your designs from, that's going to be a big step in actually being able to print on a t-shirt with sublimation. Now, I will say, when you think about t-shirts, maybe you think about like a medium or small or large, men's shirt or something along those lines, or a unisex shirt that is really standard. But really, there's a lot of different sizes. There's oversized shirts that you can print on. There are kids and baby size shirts and onesies that you can print on. And of course, the scope of sublimation goes way beyond t-shirts, but there's all kinds of different types of shirts that you can sublimate onto. You can even sublimate onto darker colors, a black or a dark navy like this, a t-shirt that has that polyester blend. There's a specific type of sublimation paper that actually is able to sublimate onto those darker colors. And so really don't want to just go down to the description box, for example, and just buy, anything. You really need to have an idea of what it is you're really wanting to do. And of course, there's a lot of room for experimenting. If you're doing this at home, you probably want to experiment a little bit. And shirts that I recommend are typically Cricut shirts, but there's a lot of other brands on Amazon that I highly recommend that are really good for sublimation printing. You just want to make sure anything that you print on has the word sublimation in it so that you know that it is compatible with that ink. Now, of course, beyond t-shirts, you can also do hoodies, sweaters, and there are some other specialty. Really do some research online and you'll be able to see there's a lot of different types of apparel that you can actually sublimate onto and have customized. All right, so you have your equipment together and now you are ready to actually sublimate onto a t-shirt. So what you would do is is you get everything prepared. I would lay everything out and I would begin with the heat press. Make sure that's started. And if you have a Cricut heat press, you can actually go to the app and initiate the process to get that started. If you have the Cricut heat press, you can actually go to the Cricut app and you can go in there and select all the different options that you want to start a project. So essentially what that'll do is it will send the time and the sequence at which you need to actually use the heat press. So at first it'll start to heat up. Maybe it's at 200 degrees. It will heat up to 350 to 380 degrees depending on what you're doing. You really just would need to look at the specific instructions for the specific type of media that you're printing on. Okay, so the first thing you'd want to do is you have everything laid out. So now you would take your t-shirt or whatever apparel that you are sublimating onto. You're going to put that down on your heat mat, because you would have to have a heat mat if you're using the setup that I'm using. If not, if you're just putting it onto a regular heat press, you'd then put it onto the press. And the first thing you would do is you actually need to warm up that t-shirt for about 15 seconds. And I'm not going to go really into the specifics of the temperature because that's going to vary depending on what exactly you're doing. And you will really want to just check on the Cricut app or whatever device you're using to do the heat press and look at the recommendations. Also, the different types of t-shirts that you get will sometimes have a recommendation for the heat that you should use to transfer onto it. Now, this is assuming you've already printed onto the sublimation paper your design. You've chosen your design, you've gone through, you have to flip the image because when you're printing it, it's going to be facing this way. You want it to be facing the right way, so you have to flip the image when you're actually printing it. So that's a whole nother aspect of this as well. So I do cover that in another video. That's really getting into the details, and that's something you would really want to look into after you watch this video. Okay, so you have your design printed on your sublimation paper. So now you would take that paper, you would kind of adjust where you would want it on the t-shirt. You can use, a ruler or a measuring tape, to really check and make sure that it's centered, and or if you wanted it off to the left or off to the right. You're going to decide all those things probably before you even start this process, but we're in it now. And so now the t-shirt's warmed up. We're placing our image right where we want it. We know where we want it. We're putting on our heat resistant tape. And now we are actually getting ready, having heat resistant gloves on, taking our heat press, and we are now pressing that image onto the t-shirt. Now, we can't forget to use parchment paper. Parchment paper, within the t-shirt so that it sits right under where you're going to press it, and then another parchment paper over that. Then you can begin pressing, and it's going to be for about 45 seconds, typically between 350 degrees to 385 degrees. 45 seconds will pass, and then you will be able to take off that sublimation paper. It can now be discarded, and you should have the final product of your sublimation t-shirt having been printed on, having that image, that custom image that you wanted on there, and hopefully you're happy with the result. This is not a perfect science. You may look at that image and you may want to start over. You may want it to be bigger, or you may want it to be smaller. And so there's a lot of adjustments that you can make. So I would recommend, if you're doing this for the first time, I would buy additional t-shirts so that you can practice a little bit before you do the final product. If this is your first time doing sublimation t-shirt printing, if it's just a new setup for you and you're just getting back into it, you probably have a little bit more know-how and you can get right into doing your actual sublimation printing that you're going to have as a final result. But if not, there is a lot of room to learn and there's a lot of room to practice. So that's what I highly recommend, because that's really what I ended up doing with my sublimation projects. Is I tested, I made sure, because a lot of times, especially if you're working with someone else, they may tell you, well, I wanted this sizing, I wanted it to be, maybe a little bit more to the left or to the right. And so there's a lot of adjustments that can be made with sublimation printing. That's the beauty of doing custom t-shirt printing. All right, so I really hope that this video ended up being helpful. Again, if it was, please make sure to like. That really does help. If you have any questions at all, comment below. And if you want more content like this, please make sure to subscribe. Now, also, the sublimation ink that I use and that was used for the projects that you saw here in this video is Best Printers Sublimation ink. It's going to be linked down in the description below. So I highly recommend that you use that sublimation ink. It's very high quality. You can see for yourself the images that it's able to produce. And so it's also going to be an affordable price compared to other online sublimation inks. All right, so that's really all I have for today. Thank you so much for watching until the end of this video. I handpicked 2 videos that are here on the screen for you to watch next. Also consider subscribing to this channel. There's so much helpful content for you if you're a printer owner, and it's just good to have a resource like this for you in the future, whether you're dealing with a printer that's not printing well or you need more printer recommendations. So I look forward to seeing you again in another video.